Penny Hardaway was supposed to be Magic Johnson 2.0, but instead he was Derrick Rose, 15 years before Derrick Rose. Once the most explosive and most popular point guard in the NBA, Hardaway's prime was derailed by multiple injuries. This is the story of Penny Hardaway, the greatest player that never was, and one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history. Anthony Hardaway was born in 1971 in a poor neighborhood in Memphis, Tennessee. When he was 3, his mother moved to Oakland for work, leaving Anthony with his grandmother Louise. And it was Louise who gave Anthony his famous nickname. She was calling him Pretty, but due to her thick southern accent, it sounded more like Penny. And soon, everybody was calling him that. And to protect him from all the gang violence that was going on around them, Louise gave Penny the greatest gift he ever received, his first basketball. Soon, Penny would spend all his days on the asphalt playground courts. "I played for 9 hours a day since I was 8. Some boys would come play, go home, eat, then come back, and I'd still be there playing. Mostly I played by myself." And when he reached high school, all those hours compounded and turned him into a basketball phenom. Hardaway could do everything with the ball. He was also bigger and faster than everybody. By his senior year, Penny stood at 6'7" with an insane 7-foot wingspan. He could easily shoot over every defender and swat their shots like mosquitoes. As a senior, Hardaway averaged an unreal 36 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, and 3 blocks per game. Hardaway's incredible play earned him the National High School Player of the Year award by Parade magazine. Penny could choose where he wanted to go to college, but he wanted to stay close to his grandma, so he opted for Memphis State, which is now the University of Memphis. But there was one big problem. Penny couldn't pass his ACTs, despite taking the test 4 times, which put him under the infamous Proposition 48 regulation for student athletes. While Hardaway was able to join Memphis State, he was academically ineligible to play during his freshman year. The only games he could play were so-called intramural games. And Penny, who was already a local hero and high school superstar, dominated. People used to fill the practice facility to max capacity to watch him play, but that meant nothing if he didn't improve academically. Thankfully, Penny earned all the credits he needed with a 3.4 GPA, and he was finally eligible to play as a sophomore. However, just when everything worked out for Penny, a near tragedy almost took his life. Hardaway played pickup games in an old neighborhood gym, and when he was returning home, Penny and one of his friends were robbed at gunpoint. The attackers fired several shots, and one of the bullets ricocheted off the ground and struck Hardaway's right foot. After being shot, Penny was forced to lie face down on the pavement as the robber pointed a gun at his neck. I kept thinking, he's going to shoot me in my back. He's going to shoot me in my head. Thankfully, Penny survived. However, he was now faced with another battle. The bullet that hit him broke 3 metatarsal bones in his foot. But despite everything, the operation was successful. Penny made a full recovery and was finally able to play for the Tigers. And immediately he showed what all the hype was about. Penny averaged 17 points, 7 rebounds, 5.5 assists, 2.5 steals, and 1.5 blocks per game, leading Memphis to the Elite 8. In the offseason, Penny was selected to the development team that scrimmaged against the 1992 Dream Team, helping them prepare for the Olympics. After playing against Jordan and Magic Johnson, it was a walk in the park to play against college kids. As a junior, Hardaway improved across the board. With 23 points, 8 rebounds, 6.5 assists, and 2.5 steals per game. He was the most versatile player in college basketball, with a unique blend of skills that made him a hybrid between Magic Johnson and Scottie Pippen. Other than Magic, nobody as tall as Penny handled the ball so effortlessly, with a deep bag of reverses, spins, crossovers, hesitations, and changes of pace. Hardaway could really do it all. But this was the age before the internet, when information was scarce. And while every NBA general manager knew about Penny, some NBA superstars didn't. Among those who had never heard about Hardaway was Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq had just finished his first NBA season, where he dominantly won Rookie of the Year and got selected to the All-Star game. And because he was just as good in front of the camera as he was on the court, he quickly became one of the most popular players in the NBA. Marketing executives and film producers fell in love with Shaq too. And after his rookie season, he got offered a role in a basketball film called Blue Chips, where he first met Hardaway. And when Shaq first saw Penny, he wasn't familiar with his game, actually believing that Hardaway was an actor. And even though the Orlando Magic had just a 1% chance to get the #1 overall pick, the stroke of luck gave them that opportunity. And everybody in the world believed they would pair Shaq with Chris Webber, who was universally accepted as the best collegiate player. But during the shooting of Blue Chips, O'Neal got so enamored with Penny's game that he gave Orlando the ultimatum: either draft Penny or lose me. However, when the 1993 draft came around, the Magic drafted Chris Webber.
The Orlando Magic select Chris Webber.
Shaq was furious, but moments later it was announced that his wish was granted.
Orlando has traded the draft rights to Chris Webber to Golden State in exchange for the draft rights to Anthony Hardaway and 3 future first-round draft picks.
Then, when the season started, Penny and Shaq continued to build on the magic that started on the movie set. The young, fast, and athletic Orlando Magic became the most fun team in the league, finishing the season with 50 wins and making the playoffs for the first time in franchise history. And even though they got swept by the Pacers in the first round, they had plenty to be happy about. Shaq averaged 29 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 blocks, while Penny proved to be a perfect point guard for him. Hardaway finished the season with 16 points, 5 boards, 6.5 assists, and 2.3 steals per game, finishing slightly behind Webber in the Rookie of the Year voting. But despite a plethora of young talent, the Magic were aware of their chronic lack of experience. So in the summer of 1994, they brought in Horace Grant, one of the key pieces of the 3-time champion Chicago Bulls. Brian Shaw also arrived, and the Magic were ready to take the next step. And they did. Hardaway was the conductor of the show. O'Neal attacked the rim with no mercy. Nick Anderson and Dennis Scott were hitting from outside when Shaq got doubled. Horace Grant did all the dirty work, and B. Shaw was there to steady the ship off the bench. Orlando finished the season with 57 wins and had the #1 seed in the East, with the best offensive rating in the NBA. Penny averaged 20 points and 7 assists per game on 52% shooting, and was named to the All-Star team together with Shaq.
Hardaway plus Harding, Shaquille!
And after they dispatched the Celtics in the first round of the playoffs, a big challenge awaited the Chicago Bulls with the freshly returned Michael Jordan. However, the young Magic team proved to be too big and too athletic for the Bulls, and they broke Jordan's invincible aura, winning the series in 6 games. After they defeated the Bulls, Orlando faced their nemesis, Indiana Pacers, who had given them a painful lesson in the 1994 playoffs. But this time, Orlando was ready, and they finally cracked the Pacers in 7 games, behind stellar performances from Shaq and Penny, who averaged 20 points, 7 assists, and 2.5 steals, shooting a phenomenal 53% from the field and 47% from 3. The Magic advanced to the NBA Finals against the defending champion Houston Rockets and their powerhouse center Hakeem Olajuwon. And while the battle between Shaq and Hakeem was the center of attention, it was the role players who were the biggest story of Game 1 of the Finals. With 10 seconds left in the game, Orlando was up 3 and had the ball. After a foul on Nick Anderson, Orlando's guard missed both free throws. However, he managed to get the rebound and was fouled again.
12 of 15 at the line, and Anderson missing on both, but gets to the rebound and again draws the foul.
But 2 more free throws brought 2 more misses. If Anderson made just 1, the game would be over. But with 2 seconds left, Kenny Smith hit a 3-pointer to tie the game and send it to overtime, where Houston managed to prevail and win Game 1 on the road. This loss zapped the energy from the Magic, and the experienced Rockets took advantage. Even though the games were close, Houston won the next 3 and swept the overly confident kids from Orlando. Penny was again spectacular in the finals, averaging 25, 5, and 8 on 50% shooting and 46% for 3. But the Magic simply fell apart and were not ready for the moment. Shaq later admitted that he and Dennis Scott partied for a week straight after they won the East, thinking that if they defeated Jordan, they would easily win the championship. However, despite the gutting loss, Orlando was still super young and extremely talented. In the 1996 season, they improved their record to 60 wins, finishing second in the East behind the 72-10 Chicago Bulls. Penny improved his numbers across the board, with 21 points, 7 assists, and 2 steals. Hardaway was once again the only player in the NBA who averaged 20 points and 5 assists while shooting 50% from the field. Around that time, Nike started the extremely successful campaign of Little Penny commercials, with Chris Rock as the voice for Hardaway's alter ego.
Hey, Penny, is this couch real leather? Cause it's sticking to my leg.
Hardaway was considered the best and the most popular point guard in the NBA.
In a matter of just 2.5 years, Penny Hardaway has established himself as one of the best talents in the NBA, arguably among the top 5 players in the league.
And his rise to superstardom didn't sit too well with Shaq and his big ego. The media rumblings of whose team it actually was started to create turmoil between the 2 Magic stars. But as Orlando was winning games, everything seemed under control. In the playoffs, they quickly defeated the Pistons and the Hawks, losing just 1 game en route to the conference finals, where they were eagerly awaited by the Chicago Bulls, who'd had the best regular season record in NBA history. And this time around, the Bulls had Dennis Rodman, the best rebounder of all time, and it made all the difference in the world. Chicago destroyed the Magic in Game 1, winning by 38 points. But in Game 2, Orlando led by 15 at halftime, and it seemed like it was going to be a long series. But the Bulls quickly bounced back in the second half, winning Game 2, which killed the Magic's spirit. Game 3 was another blowout, and Game 4 was just a formality, as the Magic got swept.
The Bulls have swept the Magic. Jordan finishes with 45 points.
Hardaway still had a great series individually, averaging 25 points on 47% shooting, but the lack of depth and rebounding sealed Orlando's fate, and Rodman nearly had as many offensive rebounds as the entire Magic team. However, with Shaq and Penny on board and just reaching their prime, everybody believed these were just growing pains and a few small hiccups on their road to the title. But the dynasty that was supposed to happen fell apart before it really caught its stride. In the summer of 1996, Shaq's rookie contract was up and he became a free agent. He was expected to stay, but the Magic kept stalling with his new contract. And when the Orlando Sentinel published a poll where 85% of readers said that Shaq was too greedy, O'Neal was pissed. Los Angeles Lakers GM Jerry West realized that he had the chance to swoop in and get the best center in the NBA.
ESPN has learned that the Lakers can now offer Shaq over $120 million.
And Orlando lost their biggest star. However, Penny and Shaq would become teammates again just a few weeks later, both playing for Team USA at the 1996 Olympics, leading the US to another gold medal. And when the 1997 season started, Hardaway could finally show that he was the man and solidify his reputation as the best point guard in the NBA. However, Penny battled through minor injuries throughout the year, which forced him to miss 23 games, and his averages dropped to 19 points and 5 assists per game. But he still made the All-Star and All-NBA third team. Without Shaq and with Penny missing time, Orlando barely made the playoffs, where they lost to the Heat in 5 games. But in that series, Penny showed what he was capable of as the first option. Hardaway averaged 31 points, by far the best mark of any player. Nobody else on the Magic averaged more than 12, and Penny either scored or assisted on half of Magic's points. Hardaway was 26 at the time, and he was in line to take Jordan's place as the face of the NBA. But instead of dominating on the hardwood, Penny dominated operation tables and rehabilitation centers. Hardaway suffered his first major knee injury in 1998, which forced him to miss all but 19 games of the season. Because of his popularity, the fans still voted him as an all-star starter, but he also got criticized for attempting a comeback sooner than expected just to play in the All-Star game. Still, Hardaway returned in time for the lockout-shortened 1999 season and managed to play in all 50 regular season games.
One thing about the Magic on Saturday night, they really had a good-looking Penny Hardaway, and that is encouraging.
Even though he already lost some of his explosiveness, he led the Magic with averages of 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. His 2.2 steals were the 5th best mark in the league. And despite the scoring decline, Penny was still one of the most versatile players in the entire league. But the Magic simply didn't have many weapons around Hardaway, and they lost a first-round series to the 76ers, with Penny averaging 19 points, 5.5 assists, 5 rebounds, and 2.3 steals, once again improving his stats in the playoffs. It started to dawn on Penny that he can't win in Orlando. His good friend Jason Kidd was calling him to Phoenix, and before the start of the 1999-2000 season, Hardaway was traded to the Suns. The pairing of Kidd and Hardaway was dubbed Backcourt 2000 because they were both athletic finishers and amazing passers.
Hardaway!
But they both weren't great three-point shooters, so neither could really play off the ball. And while the Suns' offense was average, they had the third-best defense in the league. Penny averaged 16, 6, and 5 in the regular season, and again he upped the ante in the playoffs, leading the Suns past the Spurs even without Kidd, who was nursing an ankle injury. But in the second round, against his old friend Shaq and his Lakers, Penny was helpless. Despite averaging 21, 4, and 5, Shaq was unstoppable, and the Suns lost in 5 games. And this would be the last good season of Penny's career. The next season, he had 2 microfracture surgeries on his knee and played in just 4 games. And after the season ended, Jason Kidd got traded. In the next 2 years, Penny was relatively healthy, missing just 24 games, but it was clear he wasn't the same player anymore, as he only averaged 11 points per game. During the 2004 trade deadline, Hardaway was traded to New York, but in the next 3 seasons, he only appeared in 83 games, averaging 8 points per game. After a total of 5 surgeries on his left knee and battling arthritis, Penny finally decided to retire after the 2006 season. But after missing the entire 2007 season, he gave it another go, signing a minimum deal with Miami, where he once again teamed up with Shaq. However, after only appearing in 16 games, he left the NBA for good. Hardaway was supposed to be the more athletic version of Magic Johnson, and when he was healthy, he lived up to that expectation. Between 1994 and 2000, he averaged 21.5 6.5 points, 6.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds, and 2 steals per game in the playoffs, showcasing fluidity, explosiveness, and versatility that's rarely seen from a 6'7" point guard. But the injuries chewed up his athleticism. And just like Derrick Rose, Penny's prime only lasted for a few years at the very beginning of his career.